Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cams rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. Got a great show for you here today. I've got a friend of mine in, and I've been wanting to get this guy on the show, and we were finally able to work it out. And his name is Bob Robertson, and he's with Radio KAIR. If you guys haven't become familiar with internet radio, you will. And he's got a great show. I want you guys to check it out. We'll send some directions your way and put them in the description. Bob also serves on the board of directors for the Greater EMC Chamber, and he's heavily integrated into the community. And so he needs listeners, and we're going to try to see if we can get him some more listeners and some more support. Bob, welcome aboard. Good to have you on the show, man. How are
Hank,
you?
it's great to be here. It really is. I actually was really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's been good. I went on your radio show, and I had a good time.
Thank you.
And you got a nice office there in Humble.
And nothing like this. Boy, this is
just
nice, yeah.
Yeah, I think the studio itself, it might be a little bit bigger, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit when I was on your show about the death of FM.
Right.
And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And so I kind of wanted to touch on it because I think not a lot of people know that FM's dying. So
right.
What happened? I mean, FM was such a strong back in the 70s and 80s when music was music.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't digital music.
Right.
FM was so strong. So, I mean, what happened? Was it just technology that took over?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to start out with back in the early 1900s when radio first came out. And it came out in AM, amplitude modulation. And it's a great way to carry voices. But it doesn't carry music very well.
Right.
You don't get the fidelity out of AM that you do FM. Back in the late 60s, somewhere in there, FM kind of hit the mainstream. Not that it wasn't around before, but it hit mainstream. And then it hit as FM stereo. Mm-hmm. FM stereo is basically, I think what a lot of people don't understand, it's basically 3 stations or 3 channels that you're dealing with to get your signal out in stereo. So you have the left channel, you have center and right. Center is dead. There's nothing in the center. That's just to keep the left and right separated.
Right, it's a carrier.
Yeah. So that kind of came on. I can remember, of course, those. Excuse me, your viewers can tell I'm an old guy, so I've been around for a long time. But
we're both old guys. Yeah.
But the thing was that I remember when cars came with AM radios. Mm-hmm. Then probably in the early 70s they came out with AM FM radios, and then later FM stereo radios. And that was kind of the mainstream back then. So as a kid, we would go hang out when we moved to Houston. Mm-hmm. We'd go hang out at stations like K News, KNUZ, or KILT, KILT.
Oh yeah.
Or KCOH, which was it was the black station that was
you're
real
bringing
popular.
back memories.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
it was kind of it was a cool deal. So when we first moved in, we were all into my family, my older sister, who you met, Dee Dee, mm-hmm. And we were into R&B music. We were not big Beatles people. Mm-hmm. The English Revolution, or whatever they call it, didn't
appeal to you.
Well, not
See,
that much.
I listen to a lot of R&B myself.
Yeah. So we that's what we cut our teeth on, and that was. So we would go down off of, and I'm really gonna. I think it was McCowan or something like that, where mm-hmm. KCOH was.
Yeah.
And the station is still there to this day. They're still broadcasting. And they have a window that kind of leans out, and it's actually, you can see it from 3 sides, and the DJ is literally facing the street.
Okay.
And we'd go by and blow the horn late at night. Now, But we
yeah.
did it. We did it because, I mean, we'd blow the horn and wave, and we were like, we just thought that was the greatest thing. And, you know, we could tell he'd wave back, and then you'd hear things like now he wouldn't do it very often, but he'd say things like, "You white kids need to get back to your side of town," you know.
Yeah.
But for us, just to be noticed was a big deal.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but getting back to the AM/FM thing, back then those were all AM stations. They were not FM stations. I think Kilt was the first one to go FM, and then they went country because they were rock and roll just like
Right.
Amy's
I remember
was.
when KLT was rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time
Yeah,
ago.
that was. Yeah. But anyhow, they became. I don't even know what happened to them. I don't even know if they're still around. But
I don't think so. And if they are, they've gone Hispanic, I believe.
okay.
For a while, they were a Hispanic station. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know if they ever
Yeah, and
faded out
that's
or
kind of
what.
a big deal. That's growing. And I think Radio KAIR is going to start doing some stuff in Spanish also, and that's maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
got a big audience for it. That's
yeah,
for sure,
absolutely, and it's a growing audience, and the Hispanic people tend to listen to radio, so
Yeah.
that's kind of a big deal. So anyhow, we're getting back to it. So we FM trotted along for years and years, and really, I'm going to say up until close to the pandemic. Everyone was still thinking FM. But back in 2017, we owned a company, a generator company. So you've heard of Generac generators
Oh, yeah.
and all that.
Yeah,
So
I happen to have one. Yeah.
okay, good. Yeah, and so we were like the fourth generator company in Houston. So we were early on into the generator business, and like to have starved to death, the first few years.
Until Rita.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah,
and
'cause that's when we bought ours. We got caught with our pants down. I said, never again. I don't care
Yep.
if it's $100,000. I'm buying a generator. And
So
we did.
I went my first year in the business. I think I made gross sales. I think was $30,000 was it. And then Rita hit, and my next year I did $500,000.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it just exploded. That's kind of like what's happening with radio right now. We're in this transition where people don't know what streaming is or didn't know. They tend to know now. So anyhow, getting back to the story, we sold the generator company, and one day I was looking at other options. Like I said earlier, I'm an old guy. I'm never going to retire, and not that I can't retire. I can. Financially, we're doing well enough. We don't have to work. I just have to stay busy, and I'm just not a guy that's going to get out and work in the garden every day. I'm just not going to do it.
I can understand that. Yeah, I couldn't do it either.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. So one day I'm walking through the office, and we had 4 ladies working in the office, and one of them, I walked by her desk, and she was crying, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "We're all going to get laid off." And I said, "What?" And she said, "You're selling the company. We're going to get laid off." And I said, "I'm not laying anybody off. We're going to do something. We're going to stay busy. We're going to find something to do." So I was looking around and at things that I could do, and one of the options was radio. So we live in Kingwood, and when you think about it, the only FM station that was in this whole area is KSBJ.
Right.
So
and they're pretty strong out here too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, God listens to KSBJ. He didn't want to listen to me, and
Right.
and I say that tongue in cheek. It's a good radio station. It really is.
Right.
But they don't necessarily focus on local, and because their calling's much larger than that, and I understand that. So I started looking into the possibility of purchasing an FM station in this area. There's no frequencies
That's a
were
large
available.
capital investment.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And there were none.
Just the frequency alone.
Oh, yeah. It gets into the millions.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Licensing and all. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I was looking at that, and there were no frequencies available. At that point in time, back in 2017, you could scan your radio dial all the way across, and you would hit station, station, blank, station, station, blank, station, which meant there was nothing available. Nothing.
Right.
Today, there's over 13 spaces available. Is
there really?
Yeah. And Hank, that was actually more than a year ago when I checked that. So,
wow. Because I thought the FCC had started recalling frequencies that they weren't going to allocate anymore.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's on the ham radio spectrum somewhere. But I thought maybe it was FM also.
Well, FM's that's part of. I think that's part of it. So FM, what the FCC is trying to do right now is bundle FM. So they're trying to get companies to bundle all their stations together, and then they use translators and all this stuff. I don't think that's going to work long term. Maybe short term it will. So I started looking into things, and I noticed that in Europe, and this was in 2017, they were at 90%, 90 or 92%, somewhere in there, all streaming back then. And I was like, all right, so what's going on? And then on October 17th of 2017, the country of Norway ceased assigning FM frequencies. And if you had one, you could run it out, but they would not renew it.
Wow.
So they pushed, there's no more FM. The last time I checked, they were at 97% streaming. So there's only just a few people in all of Europe that are still doing FM.
Wow. So it's like Pandora and things like that. I guess they would be your biggest competition then, right? Because that's all streaming. Even though it's not really a station, it's more of a service.
Right. So what's happened is that the whole world has opened up. So used to when we had just a few genres or things that we did, now all of a sudden we have streaming radio, we have streaming stations, we have podcasts, we have all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's really opened up.
And you're no longer limited to line of sight either.
That's correct.
So, worldwide.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, it really is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going through a transition right now. It's going to take a while for everything to kind of, the dust to settle and all of that. Ultimately, what's going to happen is that FM will go away. Ford actually quit putting the FM radios in their cars a year or so ago. And GM has said that they will also stop because everyone has figured out there's money to be made in streaming. That's
XM, Sirius, things
absolutely,
like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they try to get you to, as you were talking earlier about the computer programs are getting to where there's subscription services and stuff like that. That's exactly where the world is going with that. Anybody, I mean, if you want to have a streaming radio station, which is not radio really. I mean, we call it radio, but it's not. It's a streaming service. You're just it's a service you're putting out there, and you're trying to provide something or a service for someone about something is what you're doing.
Right.
So
you can have niche content, a lot like an old FM station here. There was rock and roll or country. You could have niche content if you wanted, or you can just offer a broad variety of content.
Sure.
Right.
Just like right now, you have AM stations, and by the way, AM will never go away. I just want you to know that.
And I wonder if that's just because of the punch, because AM has a pretty good punch.
It does.
Like you said, it doesn't carry music real well, but it carries signal real well.
Very well.
Yeah.
And yes, and there's some nights. Well, when I was a kid, living in Louisiana, I had this old wooden box radio.
Yeah.
That was. It's a long story, but at night I would turn it on, and we didn't even have headphones back then, and I would put my ear to the speaker, and because I didn't want my parents to hear that I wasn't sleeping, and I could pick up WLS out of Chicago, and this is from Louisiana.
Right.
And I think that's where the bug got me, because it just blew me away that you could hear something that far off.
Right.
And then later on, I went up and I put a wire antenna going across the peaks of the roof, and I could pick up New York.
Wow.
And that was kind of what really gave me the bug for radio. So anyhow,
and plus the content was good back then. It was exciting,
Yeah.
DJs had a lot to offer, and
Right.
everything was brand new, and those were great times.
They were, I think they were the magic days of radio. When you think about it, so in the early days of radio, they would do like plays, radio plays.
Oh, yeah, I
They'd have
remember.
dramas, they'd have
Sure.
comedies, Amos and Andy. All of that stuff was on the radio, not television. And it wasn't until television really took over that those things moved to television. But early radio was all really kind of entertainment radio, not just. It wasn't necessarily music. I mean, they had some music, but it wasn't.
Fireside chats. I remember it
Right.
all.
Pardon me.
That's okay. We grew up in such a great time.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we got to see it.
Right.
Kids today, they don't know. They grew up with computers and phones in their hands,
Which is nothing wrong with that, but it's just, I think that gold. They may have their own golden age, and maybe their golden age is going to be streaming. Who knows, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
The only problem that I have is the way it's affected the music industry itself. Because like today you have EDM,
Right.
electronic and digital music. Well, what happened to the musicians? And
absolutely.
If you can create literally perfect sounding music on your computer, and you don't need to be a musician, that's sad, I think.
Yeah,
Because
I
an art,
agree.
and it's something that takes forever to polish, and not everybody can do it. I'm proof that not everybody can do it.
Right.
I play guitar, but I'm pitiful at best. So, and I've worked very hard to hone what little bit of skill that I have. And I can see how it really does take talent. But it doesn't, because I can create digital music in an hour.
Sure.
It doesn't take talent for that. It just takes an ear.
Yeah. You can take a mixer and you can add little clips from here and there, and
Oh,
put them in there and move them around, and next thing you know, you've got something.
Yeah, you get a whole symphony.
Yeah.
If you
You
try
can,
hard.
you can do MIDI,
Yeah.
with getting all these
Right.
samples and put them together. And I don't know, maybe in some ways that's a form of art in itself. Maybe. I know.
I think it could be. I know that, Prince, the artist Prince, started
Sure.
that way.
Wow.
When he first got his first record deal, his demo he had put together by himself. And
Wow.
the record producer said, get his band down here and let's get it done. And they're like, what band? There's no band. And so they had to
Just
go out
Prince.
and find session musicians that could play that music to be able to cut his first album.
Wow.
And,
Now that was a guitar player.
Yeah, Prince was amazing.
Oh,
a lot
my
of
gosh.
people wrote him off as a guitar player, but he was great.
He was.
But he's a
great.
multi-instrumentalist. I think he
Yeah.
played 23 different instruments.
Yeah, he was just
yeah,
so
natural.
talented.
Yeah.
So talented.
And only
yeah.
3 foot tall. Who would have thought it?
I think he was 3'2", wasn't he?
Yeah, I think something like that. As if he had platforms on.
But yeah, he was incredible. And
And I'm afraid we're going to end up losing. The only thing I do like is that music always lives in perpetuity. It never goes away.
true.
So all the stuff that was recorded back in the early days of when we were kids, you'll hear that forever because it's been retained digitally.
Right.
So we're good with that. And that's a good thing. But I'm concerned that true artistry will go by the wayside. And eventually people just won't care and they won't know.
Yeah, it could be. It could. We're in that period where
Right.
things
It's
there's
just
so much
evolution.
happening.
It's an
you're right.
evolutionary process.
Really is, and
Yeah.
and it could be that there could be something happening down the road that we're not even aware of.
I hope
that
it's something good.
Well, right. We always do. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But so I do know this. If you really look at what's happening, especially on the radio and streaming side, which is kind of, that's my focus. I don't do podcast, but I think podcasting is amazing. I really do. And sometimes I wish I would have done that, but I didn't.
It's becoming a very littered playing field now.
Yeah.
There are literally millions and millions of podcasts. And so it's hard in a sea of all that to be able to poke your head up enough to be noticed. That's what I'm finding.
No, it's you're right, and it's kind of like social media, right?
Right.
How do you get all the subscribers? What do you call them,
stand
followers
out,
and all that?
stand
And
out
how do you
above the
stand
rest?
out without being silly, right? With really honing your craft.
Right.
Podcasting is a craft. That is,
Good podcasting is a
you
craft.
say that there are bad guitar players, and you
Right.
say you don't play the guitar, but I'm looking at I don't know, close to a dozen guitars behind me, and either you put them up to your forehead every night and think that it's going to teach you how to play, or you know how to play them. So, and I kind of think you know how to play them. So, and it's that same way with podcasts. When you get good at it, the audience will come. But
I think
there's always the Joe Rogans and people like that they actually had a following before they even started their podcast. So for them, it was just grab these people and bring them over to them.
Right. Plus Joe Rogan, I mean, really, and a lot of people disagree with this, but he's actually the original podcaster, because he started way back before there was YouTube, way back when, people were still on modems. I mean, he was starting then, and it wasn't really a podcast. It was just, he wanted to be on and do his comedy skits and things like that.
Right.
And he moved forward, and I mean, he really brought this thing a long, long, long way.
Yeah.
And he's done some really important interviews.
Yeah.
Through the years, he's become a master interviewer, and he's a smart guy, man.
No, he is
a
and
smart guy.
He knows how to drive or lead his
He can
his
direct
guests
the conversation anywhere he wants it to go.
Yeah, right.
he's-
And he can
he's a
pull
smart
answers
guy.
out that they hadn't quite planned on talking about.
And a lot of greats were born from Joe Rogan. Jordan Peterson's one of them, I believe. Now, Jordan Peterson gained his notoriety in a different direction, but after he started to realize, and he went on the Joe Rogan show, but after he started to realize he could podcast and he could capture that same audience, same thing.
So he went for it. Yeah.
So and there's a few others that have really come out, and it's hard for small guys like us that are unknowns, to get out there and make it. But this isn't something that I'm doing for notoriety or fame or even money. It's just something I'm doing because A, I really love to do it, and B, it was a promise I made when I ran for East Montgomery County Improvement District, and C, it's just I should have been doing this all along. It's almost like a calling.
See that,
and I'm
exactly.
better at this than I am at guitar for sure. So
Well, I think that podcasting is going to be just like music. There are going to be some people that are good at it. There are going to be a few people that make a lot of money at it. There will be a lot of people that are very talented at it, but will never make a lot of money at it because of different reasons.
Just the way it happens.
Yeah. And a lot of it's timing. A lot of it is, who
And the
sees
Pareto
you.
principle comes into play a lot.
The what?
The Pareto.
What?
The Pareto principle. It's kind of the rule of, and they call it the 80-20 rule, but it's actually the square root rule.
Oh. Okay.
So it's if you take the square root of the number of people who are in podcasting, that number are the ones who provide 80% of the viewable content. So in other words, they get 80% of the market share.
All right.
And so it fits with everything in society, the Pareto principle. So, and it really fits well with podcasting too. So it's hard to fit in that square, that small number that's going to get 80% of the viewership. I mean, it's got to be a miracle almost. You know?
But
Joe Rogan's definitely there.
Well, yeah,
and there's a
that's
few
right.
others that are definitely there.
Correct.
But that I don't know what it takes to unlock that Pareto rule. but I know that it works, and it's with radio, it's with everything.
Sure.
So, yeah, and I think another way that it was put is 20% of the individuals involved produce 80% of, like, let's say music, for instance. 20% of the artists produce 80% of the listenable music, or the music that's listened to.
All right.
So it's, just
But
that
is
rule.
that because of promotions? The promotability?
I don't think it is.
Really?
I think
Okay.
it's just a law of nature, I mean, it just, because it's that way with everything. You could find that in almost any part of nature and society,
Yeah.
There
are artists like here in Texas. We have Robert Earl Keen, and we have Jimmy Dale Gilmore, and Hank the Train. What's it called? Hancock. These guys, I just love their music, but they're not mainstream,
Right.
and they never will be mainstream. And why? I could listen to their music every day, all day long.
Joe
but yet
Bonamassa is another one. He's a
exactly.
great
Well, that's a
guitarist.
great example. Yeah.
And he's not mainstream and probably never will be.
Junior Brown,
Junior
another guy.
Brown's great. I went to a Junior Brown concert. It was one of the best concerts I've ever been to.
Oh my goodness.
And I looked at he plays it's called a git steel, because it's a cross between a guitar and a steel guitar.
Uh-huh.
And he invented the thing. And so I called up and asked, I don't remember who it was. I said, well, I want to buy one of these git steels. How much? They're $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, okay, well, I'll start saving it in the next life. Maybe I'll pick one up.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Junior
gracious.
Brown was amazing.
He is amazing. He's wanted by the police, and his wife thinks he's dead. That was one of his songs.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I love Junior Brown. I really do.
He's a great blues player too, and not a lot of people
absolutely.
know that. Everybody thinks he's
it's
kind of
just
country.
it's amazing. Again, there's so much wonderful talent out there, and good entertainers, by the way.
Right.
And
the cool part is it's guys like us that capture those. It's guys like you that put them on the radio, and guys like me that get to interview them. I've interviewed a couple of really great artists in here that are unknown.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there was a young man, unfortunately, I'm terrible with names, but he was a young man out of, I think, Atascocita High School, and he came, did some acoustic playing and singing. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do with it, but he was very talented and had a lot of potential there. But again, it's the 80-20, right? So what's going to happen? So I don't know. I think sometimes, it's like Elvis, right? I remember my former in-laws saying, when they were young and dating, and I say young, they were probably in their 20s or 30s, they would go down the Beaumont Highway, Highway 90, and they'd go to these clubs and stuff, and Elvis would be there. And they're like, oh, it's Elvis. We saw him last weekend at the other place. Or we saw him.
No big deal.
No big deal. Elvis was unknown. He was just cutting his teeth, or whatever you call it, and
waiting to meet the right people.
Yeah. And so who is it, the Colonel they call him or something? He shows up. Yeah. He promotes Elvis. He pushes. He's the one that made it all happen and made this persona of this guy. And I think a lot of times that is the driving force. So it's not that there's
Absolutely.
So many great artists out there, but I think the promoters just kind of, they say, boom, this guy's going to be. There were some guys out of Nashville, I think it was, or Memphis, that maybe it was Memphis that, and again, I'm terrible with names, but they went through and they made so many artists popular on the radio, not necessarily on stage, but on the radio. I think one of them was Jan and Dean and guys like that, and they really drove what what people would listen to.
Oh yeah, Casey Kasem,
Yeah,
Wolfman
exactly.
Jack, guys
Exactly.
like that. Those were the guys.
So
And there were DJs also.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so if you turned on the radio and you wanted to listen to the radio, these guys were playing the music that these promoters would say, "Hey, play this
check
record
this
and
out."
we'll pay you a little bit," and payola, and that became illegal and stuff. But that's how a lot of those people got popular.
done.
A lot of people can make good records, but if you play it enough, then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I really want to listen to that.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how great of music we missed.
Oh,
by guys
absolutely.
that never got promoted right.
Yeah.
Guys that never got a record deal, but they were amazing.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. Absolutely true.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
So, KAIR, your radio station,
Yeah.
is it subscription based or advertising based or?
It's advertising based. We are a commercial station. We're not. We call ourselves a community station, and actually, a community station is a nonprofit. It's that's the meaning. It can but when we say we're a community, it means that we serve the communities that we serve. So we focus on communities Huffman, Atascocita, Humble, Kingwood, New Caney, Porter, and Splendora at this point. That's 346,000 people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. And
It
growing.
is.
Give it another 2 years, you'll double.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's growing. Splendora is just exploding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh! My wife and I drove a couple weekends ago. We said, "Hey, let's just go take a drive and see what's happening." Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah. I mean,
it's like what isn't happening?
It doesn't look the same out here than it did
No.
even 2 years ago.
Yep.
So I mean, so much has changed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're seeing a lot of change. I think the big thing, what kind of got me, and this was before Harvey, so it's kind of weird. It doesn't really fit well with this narrative, but it is kind of what happened, and it was due to something else. Mm-hmm. So I, as I had told you off mic, I'm involved in a lot of associations, a lot of things, and I was at this meeting one night. And this lady in Kingwood stood up from the public, and she said, "What do we have in place to protect the people in the event of a massive train derailment and toxic release?" The police department, they looked at each other and they said, I don't know, we don't have anything. And the fire department said, we don't have anything. And I thought, my gosh, we don't have anything. Mm-hmm. And when I say we don't have anything, we don't have anything. Yeah, we have a police department, we have a fire department, but we ended up finding out during Harvey that when those things, when there is a catastrophe, everything breaks down. Everything. You
Absolutely,
can't,
lines of communication and everything. Yeah,
exactly. You were telling me about ham radio. We're gonna get a ham radio for the station because that's going to become important in the future for catastrophes and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, it'll be the one constant. Believe it or not, I think CB will even be more constant if the catastrophe is an extended one.
Right.
I think CB would actually come back.
Isn't that something?
If they even make those anymore, I guess they do. But yeah. I started in CB before I became a ham radio operator.
Wow.
And I loved it. I mean, but I lived in an area, I lived in Spring Branch at the time. And there were hundreds of guys on the radio every night. So you could pick a channel and you could have great conversations. I mean, I really miss those days. And I met so many great people that I never met. You know what I mean? Just met them through radio.
So did you send the CQ cards out?
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
But those, those contacts that we made on the air, so to speak, were some of the best relationships I ever had, and I never eyeballed any of those people.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and it's really great what you can do just with your voice and how you can articulate and communicate thought, deed, feeling, and all that.
Sure.
And I spent, I'd say 2 or 3 years every night. I didn't watch TV or anything, and I just hung out on the radio.
Right.
And I had one guy say, "Man, why don't you become a ham radio operator?" I was like, "I like it here. I don't need to go anywhere else."
Right.
So they called it the chicken band back then. I said, I like the chicken band. I'm fine. But I did become a ham radio operator, but it never prevailed because of the rules that were were in place. And, CB back then was kind of a lawless land. You could do whatever you wanted. There were guys that were playing music, and that was, forbidden.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it was awesome. And I really miss it. I wish it would come back. But
so CB's still kind of big into trucking, but it's sideband. Is that correct?
Yeah, single sideband.
Single sideband. So it's a little bit different frequencies, but
yeah, and they just well, it's kind of half frequencies just to get that added punch.
Gotcha.
But it still sounds awful. Nothing like what we get nowadays. Crisp, clear audio. And,
right.
And so, how do you find a station like KAIR? You just get on the internet and type www.kair.com, or
we that's a whole other story. We could do many podcasts on Radio KAIR, but
okay.
So when we started Radio KAIR, you notice I preface it with radio.
Mm-hmm.
It is because at the time when I had made the decision we're going to do this, and I wanted, so I don't even like to talk about this anymore because it at the time it didn't play well, but KAIR stood for Kingwood Area Internet Radio.
Okay.
That's what it meant.
Yeah. Okay.
But about a month into it, it's like, oh no, because we saw much more potential,
mm-hmm.
and there's this huge community area that we wanted to serve. We didn't want to we never wanted to just serve Kingwood.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to serve the communities in general.
Right.
So anyhow, I had searched for KAIR and nothing came up.
Okay.
And I must have been drinking or something that night. I don't know. But I didn't find it. And so we started KAIR. We even had posters made and all this stuff, only to find out that in Missouri, there's
mm-hmm.
a KAIR.
Okay.
There's a KAIR. It's a little country station, a little AM country station, and they're always struggling. And I actually ran across a guy, and he even DJ'd for me for a while, who had thought about buying that station. But they're still in existence, and I don't want to create a problem with them. I'm sure they're nice people and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met radio people that were not nice, by the way.
Right.
I really haven't. So we just put the name radio in front of it. So we always refer to it as Radio KAIR.
Okay.
And that's why.
So it's RadioKAIR.com.
RadioKAIR.com.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great. And so when you log in to that,
Mm-hmm.
you can immediately start listening to your content, right?
You can.
Okay.
You can. There's a listen now button you can press,
Okay.
and it'll take you straight, and you live stream it.
And what kind of shows do you guys have?
Oh my gosh!
What's your favorite?
How much time do you
You
have?
got to have a favorite show. Do you have a favorite show?
Wow. Music show or talk show?
Either one.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, whatever's your favorite.
I don't have a favorite.
Okay.
I have two produced shows that I just thoroughly enjoy every week. We don't do it live. There's no real reason why we don't.
Not much is live anymore.
Well, and that's a whole different conversation about autoplay and all of that. But
mm-hmm.
but the Janet Sisler show, which is 10 a.m. on Mondays,
okay,
is an incredible show. This lady, and she's like my therapist. I mean, it's she's just incredible. She's so insightful, and her show's only 30 minutes long, but it is just wonderful. That's really
perfect
is.
Time.
Yeah. It's just incredible. Then on Tuesdays, we have Nation Guyton that does Mastery Lab. And I just love Mastery Lab.
What's Mastery Lab?
So it's all about you being your best self. So it's kind
like
of
that. Yeah, that sounds
I'm
good.
telling you.
Yeah.
Now that's an hour-long show. and it's always insightful. It's always interesting. And I think they would make great guests for your podcast if if it's something
Absolutely.
you would.
Yeah.
But they're those two are probably my best. We have other shows. We have Brent Vise with Senior Choices, and it's for seniors, for older people, and it's all about making good choices for your health, for where to live,
financial decisions, things like
absolutely.
that. Absolutely.
And it's
retirement and stuff
and he
like that.
brings guests in, and that's an hour-long show.
Wow.
Excuse me. And we have David Harris does the market closing. He's an advisor, financial advisor with Edward Jones. So Monday through Friday, 5 and 6, he gives the market closing.
And then music, I guess you have music content in between. And
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So music, and most people, people don't think about what really happens in radio, right? I mean, we don't. Mm-hmm. So you have advertising, right? So you have to pay the bills. That's kind of the big deal. So and then you have music, and then you have content. Mm-hmm. So music is filler, right? It's like you have to put a certain amount of filler in the pie, or otherwise you don't have a pie. Yeah. So music is a filler, and then you have your content, and then you have your advertising, and that's what makes up really a station. So you have music, general music, which just plays, or you have music shows. Mm-hmm. So Saturdays we have, like tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. We have classic country, and it's Loretta Lynn, and all the old classics. Oh yeah, it's really, and it's a 2-hour show.
Okay.
At 8:00, we have Swamp Pop Saturday, and a lot of people say, "What the heck is Swamp Pop?" Well, Swamp Pop music, if you've heard of Roy Head or B.J. Thomas, those were Swamp Pop guys. Yeah. Freddie Fender was a Swamp Pop guy. Cookie and the Cupcakes was Swamp Pop. There's just so many Swamp Pop people.
And you've heard of Sundance Head, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's Roy Head's son.
Yes, sure is. Yeah, he still lives in the area.
Yeah, he's still out here.
Yeah, sure
good guy, too.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
And have you interviewed him yet?
I have not interviewed him yet. He's always busy. The guy travels all the time.
Gosh,
and if he's not traveling, he's fishing. And so I think the only time I'd ever be able to actually
go fishing with him, right?
Would be go out on a boat. Say, all right. So we'll see.
Speaking of recorder.
Yeah, I think I'll get him in here sooner or later. So it's just going to have to be like maybe during the holiday season or something.
Yeah.
When he's on hiatus. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot
going
him. On.
Yeah. But, he's very talented.
Amazing.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
But so was his dad. So it's genetic,
Yeah.
So we have Swamp Pop Saturday that runs from 8 to 10, and that's actually a show with D and I. We call it Rob and D, and I go under the name Rob there. And
cool. So you get to create an alias.
That's right. Good. Right. And so we have that, and then at 10 to noon we have Papa D and the Blues. This is not blues like you're used to.
Right, it's the old blues.
This is old school blues. Okay. I mean, this guy.
Yeah.
So Papa D comes to us out of England.
Okay. He
sends this to me every Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and then we have to put the show together and play it. He's on social media. I'm sure he's on a website and all that, but it's Papa, P-A-P-A-D, and the Blues. And he does 2 shows, Listen to the Blues Talking and Backtracking the Delta. And the Backtracking the Delta goes all the way back into the early 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And last week he did, he calls it the Prison Chants. These are the old road gangs, and they would have the old call and response type thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he had that on
foundation of blues music and rock and roll as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize where it all came from. But it all came from back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those guys had it together. They were talented, man.
They were talented. And so he plays that, and his show is really good. At noon to 4, we have Steve Eberhardt, with Solid Gold Saturday. Steve, we get that show out of a little AM station between Longview and Dallas, and I can't remember exactly which, but he does a great job. It's a nice, it's a 4-hour show, so it's a lot of content there.
Okay.
Then we have Billboard's Top 500 songs or music.
Okay.
Then at 7 p.m. we have the Big Band show, and some people say, "What, Big Band?"
Oh, that Big Band be great.
It is great.
Yeah.
I love the show, and maybe the nostalgia of it or something. But this, oh gosh,
and they're not digitally remastered. I hope it's still.
I think this is. I think they are. So this show comes to. This is really, really kind of strange in some ways, but in a great way. This show comes to us from KAMU, which is that's Texas A&M University's college station.
Yeah, there used to be a KUAM here in
Houston, that's right.
too.
I heard of it. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I did.
I can't believe I remember all these old calls.
I know, right?
It's crazy. Yeah, I listened to KUAM for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great little station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad when stations go away. It really is, because you lose. There's a voice that goes away, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I met a guy that knew one of the engineers for KLOL.
Oh, wow.
And when KLOL got out of rock and roll and went to Hispanic or whatever, they had a huge discography of rock and roll music, and he copied it. And I don't know if it was legal or not, but I ended up with a copy of it.
Get on out.
And so I've got KLOL's entire set, and it includes all the shows and everything.
Really?
So yeah, I mean it's a lot of music, and it's hidden, and nobody will ever find it. But I pull it out every once in a while, and I've got that whole thing.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I mean it's great, and it's compiled by albums, compiled by song sets. It's 1,000 different ways it's put together.
That's fantastic.
And so I think that the DJs would just go to a particular show piece and pull that out and then just play that whole thing, and it would probably be 6-8 hours of music.
Yeah, that's what they call those carts. I think it was a cart. Yeah.
So there's just hundreds of those in there.
Wow,
it's cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
very on a hard drive.
I got lucky on that.
I know. I had a similar experience. I had I've had albums for years. I used to go to garage sales and buy albums and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
vinyl's still great. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I love vinyl, and I had in my own personal collection. I had 600 or 700 albums.
I had quite a few, and I got rid of them all. That was stupid.
Yeah,
but, I did.
It's hindsight, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but I was gifted 4 truckloads of albums.
Oh, wow.
And so many I can't put them in the station. I have no room for them.
Wow.
So they're in a warehouse, and it's everything. There's the 12-inch vinyl albums. I have 78s, the old hard 78s.
Tell you what, some of those 12-inch vinyl album covers.
Oh,
the covers, that artwork
are worth a lot.
Oh my God! Yeah,
isn't that incredible?
Yeah, and I wanted to start collecting album covers. I don't necessarily need the disc, but
because the money.
Covers.
I mean, the music you can get right. I mean, the music's
It's
available.
all digital, so it's all out there.
Right.
But that artwork, I mean, some of it's amazing, and that was before we were generating that stuff on a computer. People were drawing it like tattoo artists.
Absolutely,
it was amazing.
Even the sleeves have value nowadays.
I know.
That's what's weird.
Lyrics and all that. Yeah,
it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I have that, and then I have kind of like you. I have a hard drive that's got 7.25 terabytes of music on it.
That's a
so
lot
it's
of
got
music.
250,000 songs on it, and that's where we really pick most of our music from. Is from that. But some of the music is not playable. Some of it is too hard rock, metal, stuff like that. But a lot of it, a lot of it's what I call good music. Maybe for somebody else, metal and stuff's good music, but for me, it's not. But So we have a lot of music in our library that we can pick from, and it's just everything is time, right? It's how much time do you have, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anyhow, that's kind of that.
Well, Bob, I've had a good conversation. It's been a good time talking with you today.
Thank you, Hank. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me. I
no problem.
Appreciate that.
I'm definitely going to include in the description how to get to Radio KAIR, so you guys can check it out.
Yeah, we're also we have an app. You can download the app from the Apple Store, Android Store. Although Android right now is acting a little silly, so you may not see it right this moment.
It's a Radio KAIR, is that what it's
It's
called?
a Radio KAIR app.
Okay.
It's our own app. You can listen live from the website. You can also go to TuneIn or Streama, and we're available there. We're also available on Alexa smart speakers and the Google smart speakers.
Great.
So we're just about anywhere you need to be, and obviously with the app you can, it's on your phone and all that.
There you go.
And so
all right,
we try to be available.
Well, once again, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely. I love your place, man. This place rocks.
Well, thanks. We're actually getting ready to break ground on a new studio, so it's going to be probably 8 months out, but it's going to be a full-blown recording studio, and I'm excited about getting into it.
That's very cool. I'm excited for you. I'm so glad you're doing this, Hank. I really am. I think you found your niche.
Hope so. We'll find out.
So. Well, you're good at it. So.
There you go.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Radio KAIR. Check it out. And we've got some good stuff coming up on the show. Very soon, we're going to be talking about something that's been recently brought to my attention and that I've been doing some research on, and that's some water issues that we have here in Montgomery County. And so we're going to be talking about a little bit of that. That may end up leading to a public forum that we'll do about water. We'll just have to wait and see, but I've got some exciting guests coming up. In addition, guess what's coming in November? That's right, another election season. And so we're going to be interviewing some candidates and getting you guys some good voter information so you can make wise choices at the polling places. Check out the Constitutional Corner. It premieres every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And thanks for liking and subscribing. You guys have a great one. I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we're out.